Welcome back to Mama Uprooted, where we talk about the real, the raw, the messy, the beautiful parts of motherhood because we're all uprooted, just trying to find our way. And no way is wrong. Every plant grows differently. Today's conversation is one I am genuinely so excited for. We're diving into something that affects millions of women, but still isn't talked about enough. So today we're talking about C-section healing, not just the scar itself, but we can even talk about the nervous system, posture, pain, emotional healing, motherhood identity shifts, and the long-term effects women can experience for even years after birth. As someone who's had two C-sections myself, I know how much recovery it really gets minimized in the healthcare field. Women are expected to survive major abdominal surgery while also learning how to keep a tiny human alive. And I know that it's not fun. It's not easy. But today we are joined from Nurturing the Mother, who specializes in helping women heal after cesarean birth and also teaches healthcare providers how to better support postpartum recovery. This is huge. And honestly, this conversation today, it matters because so many moms are walking around thinking that I talk to moms every single day. This numbness is normal. This pain is
Mhm.
normal. This pulling is normal. This emotional disconnect is normal. And maybe common doesn't always mean normal. So we talk about this a
Yeah.
lot. um, you know, this is not normal. Your blood work's not normal. This is not normal. Like we talk about this a lot when we unravel things here in Mama Uprooted. So today we're unpacking all of it, whether your C-section was 6 weeks ago or 16 years ago, Mama. This episode is for you. So I am just going to dive right in. I want you to introduce yourself. Tell me your story. Tell me your background, and it's all for you. Go ahead. You have the floor.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I love having this conversation because it's something that is needed. Like you mentioned, it's so common for people to have C-sections. And then it's not really talked about. It's just like, okay, on you go. Like, call if there's an infection, but it's like there's just so much to that. With that being said, if you're listening in and you're like, I had a C-section, I haven't experienced any of this. My C-section was flawless. I feel great. That's amazing. And we like would love to have more of that. But that's not the reality for everybody. Not everybody has a rough go. Not everybody it's smooth sailing. So this is really for the people that are experiencing something that's like a little curious after a C-section, whether that's physical or emotional or any of it. But it's not to say that everybody's going to feel like that. So hi, I'm Janelle Fontaine. I'm a registered massage therapist in Vancouver, BC in Canada. I started out on this path like even well before I became a massage therapist. I knew I wanted to work with mothers. It was always very important to me. I kind of wanted to be a midwife, but like quite honestly, when people are bleeding, I'm like not the most useful. So I figured midwifery was out because I wouldn't be a very good midwife. And so I set out to be a massage therapist. But when I went to school to be a massage therapist, once we got to the pregnancy massage part, because like, gosh forbid, we even talked about like postpartum, never mind C-section. So, it was all about the pregnancy. Once you have the baby, life returns to normal, right? Wrong. But anyways, this is before I knew many things that I know now. But we did the pregnancy section. I was like, wasn't really confident. So I went into general practice once I graduated and then slowly found my way back to pregnancy care. Because again, at this point, I hadn't had my own children. I still thought that it was like pregnancy and postpartum was like basically you kind of like sailed right into it. It was pretty seamless, but I had some lessons to learn.
Don't we all?
I know, right? Motherhood's just like, wait. So I went into it, treated pregnancy, and then I was pregnant myself and lived my first postpartum period. And I was like, hey, there's something here. And so then I became a postpartum doula and started supporting people more on the postpartum side, just kind of even just putting it on their radar, talking about matrescence as well too, which we can talk about a little bit later, and really like putting postpartum on the map for many mothers because I found many mothers kind of were like me, where it was like pregnancy is the thing, it's 9 months. And then once that's done, then you kind of move along, but not always the reality for everybody. Sometimes it's a little bumpy. So with that, I spent more time supporting folks postpartum, seeing more people post C-section, and they're like, "What do I do? I had a C-section. I don't know what to do." And I was like, "I don't know either." So that's not the right answer. So I set out to learn, and honestly, it has snowballed from there. I've been supporting my clients in the treatment room as a massage therapist. And then that expanded to creating the Cesarean Recovery Guide because my wait list was long and I wanted to support people that couldn't necessarily get in to see me. Some people live rurally, some people aren't near. And so that's a guide that's online. It really covers from like day one, or you could use it to prepare, which is even better. Because that's when we really have more capacity. Because sometimes we're like, oh, I'll figure it out when baby gets here. It's like, you're going to be figuring out so much when baby gets here. As much as you can, figure out what you need before. And that's kind of hard because sometimes it's like, oh, well, I don't know what I'm going to need. And that's true. But just having some general idea is so important. So even if somebody is pregnant and they're like, oh, I'm not going to have a C-section, like that was my approach. I'm like, I can control things. I'm not going to have a C-section. And I didn't. But had I have had a C-section, I seriously would have been rocked both times. But anyways, so yeah, there's a cesarean recovery guide that guides people through their recovery. And then just last year, I started teaching healthcare professionals how to show up for people after a cesarean or to prepare for a cesarean, because that's another little bit like, there isn't a whole lot of support with our primary care providers, whether that be OBs or family doctors or midwives. They truly do their best, but like their plate is pretty full. And so other healthcare professionals like massage therapists, pelvic floor physios, chiros, osteopaths, even doulas are there to support. I like to say we're like the safety net. Ideally, it shouldn't be our job. Like, quite honestly, this is something that should be addressed like on discharge. But the reality is that that's not always the case. So, and we're also seeing people so much longer. So in Vancouver, BC, the way that the support is that after 6 weeks, you get discharged by your OB or by your midwife. You can keep your doula on for longer. So then again, that's someone that could support you further out. Usually at the 6 week point, like you're not ready to go. You're not back to your pre-pregnancy self or anything, even your pre-surgery self. So questions are going to come up. And so this is where we can show up as healthcare providers to support people who have had a cesarean. Even years later, like, are we in touch with if we've had midwives, are we in touch with them like 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road? No. So who can we turn to? We can turn to our other healthcare professionals. So that's where I like to show up. And
I think it's huge. So here where I am in the States, I think it's a whole different ball game. Like we don't get the healthcare support. I mean, doulas, like I asked for a doula and they were like, no, we don't do that. Or I asked to have a
Mhm.
water birth and they're like, we don't do that. It was a whole
Yeah.
learning game. Going back, not having a C-section, I really wanted to have a natural birth.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, my daughter was breached. She was literally standing inside of me, and I had no choice but to have a
Yeah.
C-section. For me, it was a good experience, but why I really want you to talk to moms is because there isn't enough support out there. Like, my doctor really didn't tell me
Yeah.
things, what to expect, what to do, how to take care of your scar, let alone any of that. But I really want you to start
Mhm.
off by like explaining what it actually happens to our body even during a cesarean birth, because a lot of parents don't even know when it comes to
Mhm.
that, what is happening to our bodies. I mean, there's several layers being cut open. And a lot of times, our providers are not even explaining
Mhm.
that to us. Like, oh, it's just a simple surgery. You go in, you're coming out, you jump back up and do well. Not necessarily the case. Like
Yeah.
I said, they have 7 minutes to see us. They're on to their next case. So this is why I love having people like you. But what exactly, is happening to our bodies during the cesarean birth?
There is so much, but I'm going to go over it briefly because this is what I hear so many people kind of go, "Oh, I didn't realize that happened." And then part of this conversation will also be like these are some questions that you can ask. So, there's typically 7 layers that are cut or separated when it comes to a cesarean. And they're not all horizontal and they're not all at the same level of the one that you see. And so that scar, that incision that you see is really just the tip of the iceberg. And so that's why, like, if you're feeling other symptoms that aren't like along that line, That's totally fine, totally normal, definitely common, and definitely possible. And so we've got those 7 layers in different, like, directions, if you will. So we've got our horizontal layers. We also have a vertical layer as well too, and then again, it's horizontal. This is most common. It's not always like this, but really, truly, this is the most common orientation. And then when it comes to suturing, at the end where it's tied off, some people notice more pulling. This could be immediately after the cesarean or sometimes weeks or months later. And so sometimes getting curious about what side was my incision tied off on is really helpful, because then if something comes up, then you know, okay, this is the side it was tied off on. Also, sometimes that suture material typically dissolves, but sometimes that little knot, just because there's a little bit more to it, one, it might take longer to heal. So you'll look at your incision and be like, what's going on with that side? If that's the side that it was tied off on, you're going to be like, oh, that was the side that it's tied off on. It might take a little longer. Again, the key word is might. It also might be flawless, fine, and not a problem, but it might just take a little bit more time. And if that's the case, then you're like, okay, cool. I know why. If there's an infection there, of course, go to your primary care provider, get curious, have a conversation, right? But if it's just taking a little bit longer, there's no heat, there's no redness, there's no smell or discharge or anything like that, then you're good to go. But if there's any of that, then get curious, talk to your primary care provider. The other thing is too, with that little end side, is that sometimes, like I said, that suture material might be expelled by your body. And this is another thing that some people are like, I don't know what's going on, but there's like almost like a whisker like thing sticking out. What do I do? I send people back to their primary care providers that often just like pull it out with a tweezer. I'm not telling you to pull it out with a tweezer, so don't say Janelle said pull it out with a tweezer. Go see your primary care provider. They're going to do that. They're going to take care. They're going to make sure everything's good and send you on your way. But that could be a possibility. Again, these aren't conversations that are being had, but this is like little things that it's like, oh, if I would have known, I could know what to do. And it's not a big deal. Like it truly is. It's like A-okay if this comes up, no problem. Same thing with that numbness. Because there's so many layers that were cut or separated, numbness might be present. For some people, that numbness sort of subsides after like a few days, a few weeks. Other people, it's years. And how are we going to know? We're not. So we're just going to take it day by day, which is honestly like parenting in a nutshell. You take it day by day and see how things shake out. And so that's like really, truly the most important part. I hear so many people that are surprised by numbness. Don't be surprised. It's very common. If numbness or a change in sensation, maybe it's sharp, maybe it's shooting, maybe it's to do with movement, comes up later on, that's something like go see your massage therapist, go see your physiotherapist, go see somebody who knows how to support you after a C-section. Sometimes this takes some question asking, because not all massage therapists are comfortable. Not all pelvic floor physios are comfortable. Not all. So have those conversations, figure out if this is something they're comfortable working with. If they are, wonderful, you're going to be in great hands. If not, seek somebody who is. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that provider. It's just that's not their knowledge. There is so much to know about the body that we cannot know everything. You want somebody that's going to be truly excited about C-section recovery, because that's where you're going to get the best care.
Yeah, and
So
I
that's
want to
kind
talk
of like
about
most of it in a
like
nutshell.
numbness a little bit too, because that's something that I never
Yeah.
experienced numbness. Like I feel everything down there with
Yeah.
two C-sections. And
Yeah.
a lot of moms to me are
Yeah.
like, well, that's not fair. Like mine's numb. Like, so, helping moms feel empowerment and growth. Like if it's numb or not numb, like what is the good, the bad, the ugly when somebody has no numbness, but some have numbness, even if it is years later down the road, is this something that the feeling we could get back with going to someone like you? Like
Mhm.
give us some kind of growth there.
Totally. So this is the tricky thing. Everybody is so different. So what I say to like all of my clients, and I'm always preaching on social media, is you cannot compare yourself to other people. There are so many factors that affect C-section recovery, like so many that we can't compare. So first things first, we toss that comparison out the window and we just focus on ourselves. Can we do something about the numbness? What I say is let's get curious. Let's see what can happen because again, everybody is so different. I've had clients where I've massaged them once and they're like, all my numbness is gone. And I'm like, what? And then like, I'm surprised. That's my inside voice, and then I have some clients where it's just like, gosh darn, we are working. I am like trying different approaches and it's just like kind of just taking its sweet time, which is common actually. If it's going to go away slowly, it's going to be so insanely slow that you're going to be like, is this even working? But if it goes away quickly, usually it goes away pretty fast. So you'll have a general idea of like how your symptoms are changing, whether it's going to go away quickly or slowly. But yeah, so we never know. So it's all about getting curious, see how it's going to shake out. Very often it does subside. Sometimes it lingers. Why? I don't know. It like as a therapist, it's not like I try harder for one person and less hard for
Right.
the other. That's totally not the case. So it's just truly it's like how somebody's body is responding. And as therapists, like we've got different approaches. So sometimes we'll approach one way, and if that's not working, we'll try a different approach and just kind of see how somebody responds.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I think that's something that we also don't talk about is I never knew anything about the lymphatic drainage or getting even a massage or
Oh, yeah.
therapy when it comes to after having a C-section.
Yeah.
I had so many massages during pregnancy. Like that helped me get
Mhm.
through because my babies were so big and they just were in
Right?
terrible positions.
Yeah.
But, like, no one ever mentioned, "You need to get massages after," and I'm like, now this is why we're preaching to all of you mamas out there, like, go do this after if
Mhm.
you have a C-section, things like that. But I wanna talk about something really unique that really jumped out to me, like, when I finally connected with you, is your pillars. You have these beautiful pillars
Mhm.
that I want you to go through because I feel like these are all mamas, so please go follow her on her Instagram page because there's so much education there that she just throws out for you mamas. Join her group. She does lives and everything. But let's talk about your pillars, and why is education? I just want to start off too, like education is something that's really important, mamas, because and this is why we do what we do every single day. And like Janelle had mentioned, everybody's different. And that is what Mama Uprooted is. We talk about we're all different flowers, we grow different soils, things like that. And that is exactly what this is with a C-section. So never compare yourself when it comes to it. If you are having something that just doesn't feel right to your body, reaching out to Janelle, setting up something,
Mhm.
find out what's going on because your body is different and we all need different ways of healing. We're all not going to be able to eat like I can't eat an orange every single day and have this beautiful skin. I'm just throwing an analogy out there and then this girl over here eats an orange every day and all of a sudden she has this beautiful glow. Probably not going to happen. So
Mhm.
we really have to stop with this comparison game, but this is why education is such a huge part of healing, though. And so I'm going to have Janelle talk about her pillars because I think get your journal book out, write these down. This is just a game changer when it comes to your healing process. And it's going to be such amazing growth and empowerment to hear what she does for the healing of a C-section. And she actually put me like, oh, you know what? Yes, that is exactly where I was at. So listen in.
Amazing. Well, thank you. And this is something I came up with as sort of a bit of a guideline because, like we said, there isn't a whole lot of support. So it's like, where do we begin? So there are 4 pillars, and the first one being rest. We can't just go out the gates and keep going as we've been going, even if you are feeling like $1,000,000. That might be the meds. That's another thing. Some people go out the gates real hard and they're just like, oh, I still have all the good stuff from the hospital in my system. Once that wears off, and if medication isn't well managed, they just crash hard. So let's slow it down. There is a tremendous amount of energy that is needed to recover from a cesarean or vaginal birth. And some people labor, some people don't. Some people, it's a planned cesarean, there's no laboring, straight to a cesarean. Oftentimes, those are pretty uneventful. But say you have labored as well, too. You're also recovering from labor. So you're recovering from major surgery. You're recovering from labor. You're recovering from pregnancy. And if you're breastfeeding or chest feeding, you are recovering from that. That takes a lot of energy. And so think of all of that energetic output What do we need to do? We need to rest and nourish. So that rest piece is so important. Does it mean don't do anything for 6 weeks? No, it doesn't. It just means slow it down. This is when you ask for help. This is when you just get people like, bring me food. Or if you don't have anybody that's like good at cooking or you're not good at asking, because that's a thing sometimes, then it's like setting up some things that are helpful. Like maybe it's a grocery delivery. Maybe it's getting like meals delivered, like actual meals made, delivered for those first, say, 3 weeks. And then after like layering that support or like weaning off that support, but that slow rest, slow down, getting people to come in. Postpartum doulas are a thing. So if you don't know what a postpartum doula is, it's somebody that comes in and takes care of you, takes care of baby, kind of supports the whole household, which can be so helpful, C-section or not. So that's something to pop on your radar. Some of us have family. Some of us find it easier to have somebody come in so we can have those hard conversations, because having those hard conversations with family, being like, hey, can you go clean the cat's litter box? To ask my mother-in-law that was a lot harder than to ask like the person that I've got to come and help me. Are they cleaners? No, they're not. But at the same time, sometimes we're like sitting on the couch under our baby and we're just like, oh gosh, like if I could get up and do that one thing, then we would do that. But sometimes it's hard to ask for that. So actually, I'll put this in. So if you are showing up for somebody who has just had a baby, cesarean or not, and you're like, hey, what can I do to help you? And they say nothing. You say, if you could get up right now and do something, what would you do? Look out, because you're going to be told, because I can almost guarantee you that that person has like a list of 30 things that they were like, there's a mango that's like in the like fruit bowl that needs to be cut up. There's something that's liquefied in the back of my fridge. The laundry hasn't been changed over. I forgot to flush the toilet. Like, like all these little things that like they're running in here, but we're under a sleeping baby most of the time, sleeping or feeding baby. So we can't always get to it. So if you want to support somebody in postpartum, and even if you're just a friend, you don't need to be a postpartum doula or anybody like that, friend, family, show up. If you could get up right now and do something, what would you do? Best question, game changer,
Yeah,
especially for those that suck at asking for help.
absolutely. Yep, that's me.
Right? I know. Exactly. And then the second pillar is compression. Compression is so important when it comes to our early recovery. That can start basically as soon as you've had the cesarean, as soon as you're comfortable doing it. But you can't just go about it willy-nilly and kind of just do whatever for your compression. But what I want us to think of is like, say we sprain our ankle or we have another injury. What are we going to do? We're going to wrap it up. We're going to include that compression. So why wouldn't we for our abdomen? It really helps with swelling management. It helps, like you mentioned, that lymphatic system, helps support the lymphatic system, helps with pain management, and provides a little bit of support to our sweet little core that is just like, what just happened? I was pregnant. Now, not, we had major surgery. Oftentimes our core is not like the first one to come on board and be volunteering for all the activities. So help support in that way. So how do we want to apply compression in a way that is safe post-op? So one, we need to be ready to do it. Two, that's three. We need to have a compression garment that is breathable, because what we don't want to do is cause an infection, because that is not going to help us at all. And so make sure that whatever compression garment that you have actually is breathable. There's so many out there. You can look them up. I've got a few that I recommend. I've got a few that I don't recommend, because we really want to make sure that it's comfortable as well too. If you have something that is very stiff, made a lot out of like Velcro or that like thick material, that's not going to be comfortable, because what are we postpartum? We're squishy. Like, I don't care if you are the fittest person, we are soft and we are sensitive. So if we have like things digging into the top of our thighs or our rib cage when we sit down or when we're laying down, that's not going to feel good. So we're not going to wear it. So find something that is movable, you can move with, that is comfortable and that is breathable. You also want it to feel more like a gentle hug and not so much like a tight squeeze. We're not going corset style here. It's really providing counter pressure to our body to support healing. And so, yeah, make sure that it's not too tight. You also want it to cover your incision. Like, this sounds like pretty obvious, but it's amazing how many fall, because incisions are so low, fall above. And then ultimately, then there's like, okay, so say our incision is here, and then we've got our wrap or our compression garment. If it's an underwear or whatever, then it's pretty straightforward. It's going to cover. But if it's one that's applied externally and that sits above, then you're just going to end up with a bunch of swelling here, which is really counterproductive to everything that we want to do. So really make sure that it sits low, that it's really covering below and above the incision, and really making sure that it supports especially the lower quadrants of your abdomen. So what are our lower quadrants? If we think of like our belly button as our midline, so basically from the belly button down and then all around your incision. So even if it covers like your groin area a little bit, that's totally fine. You more want that than not. And then when it's applied, you want it to be, if it's going to be tighter, now I don't want you to think I need to have it quite tight in the bottom, but you want it to be kind of like tighter in the bottom, more snug in the bottom, and less snug on top. So we don't want people, maybe I must stand up for this one. You don't want it like really tight
Mhm.
here because then that puts pressure on your pelvic floor. Whereas if this is kind of lifting, so it's tighter here and
Mm.
lifting, then after you can see it wouldn't put downward pressure on your pelvic floor. Because that's the thing, like post C-section, it's still possible for our pelvic floor to be like, hi, I just lived something big. First of all, you're pregnant, so there's lots of pressure that was put on your pelvic floor. And then goodness knows which position your baby is in. That could also
Yeah,
affect
that's a
things.
great I
But
do you
also,
think you recommend more the underwear one then? Because I noticed how when you do wear, because they have like the corset ones that still are like the underwear, it still kind of lifts there too at the same
mhm,
time. Just curious on that. Like, because the wraps for me, just my body style wise, the wraps never covered my C
yeah,
section. They would always ride up. And so I was
yeah,
constantly adjusting, and then they didn't fit under,
yeah,
sweatpants and pants. And it was
yeah,
just so uncomfortable.
yeah,
So I just liked how you almost
yeah,
did that motion because it actually showed where your body was supported better than, and again, I think it just
yeah.
depends on what your body type is, right? Or okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing too. Our bodies are
Mhm.
so different. Underwear is very helpful, but the thing is that it's not always accessible for many people. Compression garments are often just a little bit more
Mhm.
expensive. And so if we're thinking, okay, with babies, we tend to do more laundry, but are we going to be washing our underwear even every 3 days? So say you get three, are you going to be washing every ultimately 2 days because
Right.
you're wearing one, right? So it's like that can sometimes be a little bit tricky. Some people will get compression shorts. Some people will get compression tights. I notice though, most people will actually get a wrap. So the one that I really like and I truly like, I actually have it. I'm pretty sure I have it right there because I have all my teaching stuff because I'm getting ready to teach. But it's the Belly's Ink wrap. It is so comfortable. And I actually get people to wear it when I'm teaching and they'll continue to wear it like for the afternoon because usually we cover it in like after lunch and they'll just wear it. They'll even wear it when they're treating. And this is people that haven't had cesareans. Like even if you, first of all, even if you haven't had a cesarean, just being able to wrap to support is really helpful. And so that is, it's such a good wrap. And it doesn't shift upwards, like especially for those of us that are more like hourglass shape, because the widest part it kind of wants to scoot
Mhm.
up. This is a excellent wrap that really can mold to your body and not just shift up, or sometimes we're wider at the top and narrower at the bottom, and it won't then just be like shifting around. It truly is like an excellent wrap. It's very
Nice.
breathable. It's excellent. Because yeah, like you said, so many of them are so stiff and don't support low enough. Or if you have it low, as soon as you sit down or you move around, then it kind of shifts up, or you can't wear clothing over top. And I mean, yeah, sure, we're like often nude or
Yeah.
close to for those first, like that first week. But eventually we start wearing clothes again and, we still want that
I mean,
support.
I think they were
Mm,
extremely helpful. Like once I found one that was comfortable, I always swore by
mhm.
them because I was able to lift my baby up better. Like I had just so much, I
Yeah.
felt, it really gave me that ab core support and just being able to I just felt so much stronger. I mean, you got to be careful with those because, like, speaking of feeling so much stronger, that's when I'm like feeling so stronger and I
Mm,
go pick up a garden pot in my back porch and my husband's like, oh my God, you're
yeah.
not supposed to pick that up. I was like, oh, I forgot. But they do kind of give you that tight
Totally.
support where you're like, "Oh my gosh, I feel amazing." So you still have to kind of trigger your
Yeah.
brain like, "Hey, I'm still healing," But I felt It
Slow
really
it
did
down.
support me
Yeah.
when I was, handling my baby, like picking up, sitting, getting up and down
Yeah.
off the couch. But after, I think my baby number two is when I really found like the full corset one, and that supported me. And it had like
Mhm.
it looked like a corset, I guess, but it was made just for cesareans. Basically, it wasn't too tight, but you could
Yeah.
also tighten it as you notice your belly, getting a little bit smaller. So it kind of just lived with me. So I
Mhm.
really liked that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I honestly highly recommend them to everybody. If you go through a cesarean, definitely find
Yeah.
a compression wrap that is comfortable and that you could get through every day with. Absolutely.
Yeah. One of the things, though, I will mention is that because we kind of touched on it, it's like you don't want to become reliant on them. So the goal isn't that external support because that's going to be your new normal, even for like a year. No, that's not it. Our goal is that 8-week mark is when we kind of want to wean ourselves off of it. So that support is there in those early weeks. As you get stronger, you just wear it less often. And so towards the end, and sometimes I have clients past 8 weeks that will wear it, say if they're going for a long walk and they're pushing the stroller, or they're carrying their baby in a carrier and they want that extra support. And so it's like you can tailor it as you like mature into your recovery to be less reliant on this external support. It's also, like I said, it's for swelling management. And so typically at that 8-week mark, there's going to be a lot less swelling. And so that's also like we're not using it just for core strength because that third pillar is core connection. And that core connection in your recovery is so important because without our core support, it's not good. Like back pain can come up, hip pain can come up, all kinds of compensatory things can come up. Like there is just so much that can happen if our core isn't like engaged on board. And so we can start very gently, even with a conscious breath, like even during the surgery itself. I mean, it helps with our nervous system. It helps with that core connection, that whole body connection. If you can mindfully bring everything sort of in and up as you're breathing, that is slowly also mobilizing the tissues. And we're going to touch on tissue mobility afterwards, but making sure that that tissue can move with breath with yourself as well too is so important. And so that's why just like we don't want to get stuck in positions. We don't want to be laying in bed for like 6+ weeks. We want to be moving. We want to be connecting to our core. We want to be bringing that strength back in because it is so important in our recovery. That again is going to be a gradual build. So we can see how if we're starting with our core connection in the early weeks, we can see how it's going to build. And as that's building, so we've got our core connection, and then after we've got our compression, we're going to be decreasing our compression and increasing our core engagement. And as we get stronger, we're going to need this less. So that's why it's not a like, I'm going to rest and then I'm going to compress and then I'm going to do my core and then I'm going to do my scar tissue mobility. It all overlaps, but it's to give some guidance. So that core engagement is such an important piece. And it's going to continue to build in the months afterwards. That's where you can really get into. There's some very simple programs that you can do that bring in that core engagement, help with like post-op recovery, help with diastasis recti if that's present as well, that you can do from home. There's simple movements that you can do from home that even you could do with like your baby present when they're doing tummy time. I mean, they're working out, so we could be working out too. And of course, I'm not saying like squats and burpees and things like that, but it's just getting that core engagement going. And then the last pillar is scar tissue mobility. This is so important because say if something is tight and it's not moving, then as we move, it's going to kind of just be like, not so much. And that's where pain and discomfort can come up. So if we can make sure that all the tissues of the lower abdomen are moving with as much ease as possible, that's where there's less likely to be any pain or discomfort in the months, years to come. And that again can start with like breath. That is mobilizing your tissues. So, of course, I'm not going to say go massage your scar in the first few weeks after a cesarean because we want those tissues to heal. Your body is so wise, so capable. And we are just here to facilitate. We, as in ourselves, but also massage therapists, physiotherapists, blah, 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 all the other people. We are there to support. So we ultimately need to leave your body do what it knows how to do best and honestly better than we know how. And then we are there to facilitate. Is there any pulling discomfort? And then just supporting that tissue. This is something, honestly, I recommend for everybody, just to see a practitioner from the get-go, especially if they don't really know what to do for their recovery. Because from there, then you can like learn what to do and you could do it yourself, or you can keep seeing somebody. Some people are like, I am learning enough with taking care of a newborn. I am going to outsource my recovery to you. And I'm totally fine with that. Other people are like, nah, I want to do this myself. That's totally fine. A lot of the people that say that they're going to learn that they're going to just see me, once they get the capacity to, they're like, okay, now what can I do? Right. And so it's honestly like, you don't need to do it all. Like, people are there to support you. We're happy to support. And yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
if you need to
when
outsource it, do.
for me, like my last baby's 2. So I'm on, we talked a little bit about the tell people, to tell the mamas about 1 to 2 years. We were talking a little bit about the 1 to 2 years
Yeah.
when it comes to recovery, like giving ourselves grace too when it comes to your recovery. You had mentioned to me, like, that's what hit me, is you were like 1 to 2 years. And I'm like, gosh, I need to hear that more often, because my son is just 2 in March,
Yeah.
and I'm still seeing myself recover. I still like make fun of my little pooch,
Hmm.
I got that little
Hmm.
pooch. But something I do want to talk about too is like the scar tissue. For me, like, I had a lot of issues with my scars. I have to get it injected because it keloided and like all these different things. But I've had a
Hmm.
lot of moms come to me and ask me about even the lymphatic drainage. Do you do like that when you're massaging and trying to get that poof, or what do people call it out there? These now you're I don't know.
Oh my gosh. There are
So many
so many
names.
names. There are
I'm
so
just
many
cracking
names.
up, but I'm just like, I just feel like for moms too, like, is it too late? How many years, like, even if can you go on with these scars, when it comes to it, like, really how to support us. If we're working on our core, really we're athletic. I mean, I'm very active, but that is one thing in my body that I'm
Hmm.
always saying, this is the only thing in that body will not go down. It's just stuck there.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people have been starting to recommend like the lymphatic drainage and doing that with a massage therapist,
Hmm.
which is really cool. But we don't here
Hmm.
in the States, we really don't talk a lot about that. So I would love to hear your
Hmm.
professional opinion on just like keeping your scar, flat and healing, and then, helping mamas just
Hmm.
feel confident to getting their core back. I mean, not everyone's going to have their full core back, you know what I mean? But I just have this little
Hmm.
poof that I just wish would poof away. Yeah.
Right? Totally. Exactly. Okay. There's a lot of things here. So I'm going to
Yes.
rewind to that 1 to 2 year, because this is almost like a myth. So many people think that at that 6 week mark, they're going to be back to regular, that, we're going to be able to do all the things we used to do. But the reality is that that isn't true for like pretty much anybody. And so set that aside. Think it really takes 1 to 2 years to heal from a C-section, not 6 weeks. There's a big discrepancy there. So if we don't feel like we're hitting that mark at the 6 week mark, that's fine, because basically nobody
Yeah.
is. Now somebody is on Instagram or whatever is going to be like, I did. Well, good job. But the reality is that most people, it does take so much longer to heal from a cesarean. So it does take time. In that time, there are so many changes that are going to occur. Like you mentioned, there's that shelf. I feel like if it wasn't for social media, we wouldn't be so preoccupied with the
Yes.
shelf. But social media loves the shelf, because social media loves to find something that you are insecure about and be like, this is not acceptable. But the reality is, like, this is what I'm going to say from the get go. So many people who haven't had a cesarean have a shelf. I didn't have a C-section. Do I have a shelf? Yeah, I do, because that's just where my body naturally folds. And so that's something to keep in mind. Like, it might not necessarily be C-section related. It might just be, as we had babies or a baby, that is where our body is going to fold, and that's okay. But some of us are like, you know what? This is not my vibe. And that's totally fine too. So what can we do? So one of them is core engagement, as you were talking about. Getting that strength is so important. The other piece, though, is getting the tissues to move. Because you can think of, like, say this is our incision. If this is pulled back, then anything that's on top is just going to want to like roll into where it's pulled back. So a lot of those like lifting type techniques are really good and helpful for that. For example, for us in British Columbia, massage therapists were not allowed to do cupping, but cupping is so good for C-section recovery because it lifts the tissues. Of course, there's things we could do with our hands and blah, 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 blah as massage therapists and that you can do at home. I know a lot of clients that end up getting their own cups and actually doing the cupping and the mobilizing. So it's like you can learn to do that at home is so helpful. Do you want to be doing this in the first few months post C-section? No. And so this is also where, like, if you're on social media and you're like, okay, I see I need to do this for my recovery. Don't do that. Go talk to somebody. Because as you even touched on, there are different types of scars. The main three is we've got our fine line scar, which is really what it sounds like. It is just a fine line. And then we've got a hypertrophic scar, which is a scar that is slightly raised, but ultimately that raised part stays within the boundaries of the incision. So it's kind of like this. And then we've got a keloid scar, and that is where we've got our boundaries of our incision. And then after it kind of goes beyond that and back. And this is like over exaggerated. It could be any variation of that, but I like to think of it at a cross section. It looks like an ice cream, probably because I really like ice cream. But at that cross section, it does look like an ice cream. It goes beyond what would be the cone of our ice cream. So those are the different types of scars. So it's important, one, to know what type of scar we have, because then we're going to treat it differently. You're not going to go to a hypertrophic or a keloid scar and do like frictions, and friction type techniques is like the rubbing, the like this kind of stuff and all the jiggling around. That's very showy and very exciting and very much on social media. But like those scars don't respond well to that. That will often irritate those scars and potentially cause more scar tissue to get laid down. So it's like that's not the type of technique to do for those kind of scars. So this is where, like, I mean, we could turn this podcast into like a
I know,
5-hour
there's
thing
so much to it.
as we really break down like what kind of techniques are good for what
Mhm.
scar. But like this is where seeing somebody, that's why there's not like these are the top 3 techniques that you should do for your C-section recovery. Like the reality is that, like we've said before, everybody is so different. And so, and where you are even in your healing, like what you're going to be doing at week, like we'll say week 6 is very different than what you're going to be doing at month 10, you know? So it's like, if somebody is watching something or hearing something and is like, okay, I'm going to do this technique. I'm at week 6, but this actually was a technique for week like, or month 10. It's like, it's not going to align. So really, truly, I encourage people to talk to somebody, whether like even virtually, like get some guidance on what to do because it makes a massive difference in your healing. Because I also see this with my clients. Sometimes they set out with really, really good intentions, like even in frequency of massaging. Some people are like, I like basically aggressively massage my scar every day. And it's like, even if you have a fine line scar, that's too much because we don't want to be re-injuring the tissues. So really, truly, you maybe want to be massaging every like maybe 3 to 5 times a week. And even then, you're not doing 20 minutes. You're just like doing maybe 5, maybe 10 minutes. And so it's like you really want to be mindful because like I said, you like our bodies are so wise. They like don't need us to interfere all the time. They need us there to support if something's going on, but they don't need us to like
Mhm.
fix everything. We don't need to be fixed. So
No, it's crazy, and
that's
I
that's the
I
long and the
think it is
short.
crazy, and I think moms are so just kind of ending on this note, and we're gonna dive into some fun questions here, and then we'll roll out to the outro. But the thing is, moms, like your bodies do are amazing. Like the layers what we went through today, how many
Mhm.
layers they cut through. And for me, what drives me crazy is when you said like 6 weeks, so, we're supposed to be jump up and be okay in 6 weeks. Honestly, I wasn't even feeling as a
Mhm.
person that does work out and has done Pilates through both pregnancies. I was not ready till 12 weeks or beyond. Like I was not ready to go out for a
Mhm.
jog, even though I was fit and active during all of my pregnancies. I still
Mhm.
did not feel it. So listen to your bodies even if someone gives you a go and says,
Yeah.
"Okay, you're covered," your doctor signs that little line and says,
Yeah.
"You're go, good luck, do whatever you need to do." At the end of the day, I always tell mamas, you got to listen to your body. and get help. It's okay to ask for help. I mean, Janelle's here to help you. Our dermatologists even here now are working with our C-section scars. So I have a dermatologist, she, checks my scar. After a year, I always have an issue with my scar. So now I'm excited to learn more about the lymphatic drainage. And I have actually a massage therapist that does that. So I'm going to get a hold of her soon. So
Yay!
but yeah, so we have those options, but I think the thing is we don't talk about them enough to make moms feel aware that we have all these available things out there. And so I was really excited to meet you because I feel like C-sections are one of those big things that moms are very, very scared to do. They immediately get stressed, it's very overwhelming, and there's so many things to do afterwards where I think what I always say is spiraling. We always spiral. Like, what are we supposed to do? We're panicking a little bit. But kind of going into, I've got some fun things just to end on a note, but what would you say to moms listening who feel discouraged, disconnected, frustrated, unseen in her healing? Like, what is something that you would say to a mom who feels this way?
Seek support. Seek support, and it depends on what level, but like if it's about your C-section scar, seek support and like ultimately get empowered in what you can do, because I see this so much in my treatment room. Like people come in unsure. Oftentimes it's an unplanned cesarean. So it's like, it's not what I wanted. I don't feel the way I want to feel. Like this doesn't feel right. And I listen to her story, and after they've shared, I just notice their bodies soften, because once they can like share how they're truly feeling with someone who can support them, it just shifts that energy of like, okay, this happened. And it's not an immediate shift like, okay, now it's all rainbows and roses, but it's just that pivot of like, okay, now I can be in control and I can support myself in my recovery. And that is just like the coolest thing, because the reality is that it's not just those 6 weeks, that 1 year, those 2 years. It's the rest of your life, because your body is going to continue to change as your little one gets older and takes on new activities, as you take on new activities, as you gain weight, lose weight, like do all the things. You might feel great for years and then all of a sudden hit perimenopause. I see this one quite often. And then all of a sudden you feel your scar again. And then you're just like, what do I do? If you have learned how to support yourself or who to seek, because like I said, sometimes we don't have the capacity and don't want to. If you know what to do, then you're like, okay, this has come up. Just like if I had an ankle injury, if my ankle injury comes around and says, hi, remember me? I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I do. Actually, we're going to go back to physio, or I'm going to do the exercises that I think I remember how to do. And we're going to see if it gets better. And if it gets better, awesome. And if it doesn't, then that's why I'll go see physio, whatever. But then ultimately, it's not like you're not in the driver's seat. Like put yourself back in that driver's seat, support yourself, take the time, be compassionate on yourself. Like it truly is, it takes time, and that's okay. And also what I wanted to mention is that if you start being active again, or you start doing more, and all of a sudden you're like, my recovery has plateaued, try taking a step back and seeing how you feel, because often you're doing too much too early, which is very common for us doers. So if you're a doer, you start doing more in your recovery and you notice that you're it's just not getting better. It's just not feeling good, or it's feeling achy, or you're just feeling more tired. Take a step back and you'll be surprised. Sometimes we need that slow
No,
down.
I love that. That was so supportive. I think that's a great thing, is utilizing the tools that we already have through these journeys as well is so important. I want to do something fun with you. I've never done this before, so I think you would be the person to do this. I want to do some rapid fire questions. So just answering them quick and just seeing your answers. I just always see people do this. It looks fun.
Okay.
So first question, rapid fire question is most underrated postpartum recovery tool.
Honestly, I'd say an ab
Okay.
wrap. I really think that's a
Yeah,
good one.
absolutely. One thing you wish every OB office handed moms.
Oh my gosh, like a pamphlet on C-section recovery, because we need to have it in writing. I mean, yes, another pamphlet, but something about C-section recovery would be so
Yeah.
helpful.
Something society gets wrong about C-sections.
Oh, well, I think I already
Yeah.
touched on this one. That 6-week mark. Don't
Yes,
follow it.
ignore it. Move on.
Ignore
Yes.
it. Move on. Exactly.
What is your coffee order?
Ooh, right now it's matcha lavender.
Oh,
I guess that doesn't count
that's
as
okay. That
coffee.
sounds amazing.
I suck
That's
at
okay. I
coffee.
love
I'm
it.
good at
Okay,
tea,
there
as
you
you
go. I
could
love
tell.
that. Current motherhood season in one word.
Baseball.
There you go. I love it.
Baseball season all the time.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm not there yet, but I'm sure we'll get there. So bless the moms that are
Oh
baseball
my god, it's so
moms. Yes.
fun.
So fun.
Baseball moms. It's a thing. Springtime.
Yes. Oh
We're
my
here. We're
gosh.
living it.
Yes. Well, Janelle, thank you so much for sharing your heart, your education, your mission with us today. I have had so much fun just really learning from you. I think this conversation is going to open up so many women's eyes to the fact that postpartum healing, it doesn't end at 6 weeks. So you guys have heard her several times. It
Mm-mm.
does not end at 6 weeks. And
No.
that mom deserves support far beyond survival mode. But to every mama listening, your scar is not something to hide. Your birth story matters, your healing matters, and whether your C
Mhm.
section was recent or even years ago, you're not broken, you're not behind, and it's never too late to reconnect your
Mhm.
body. And as always, we're all uprooted. We're just trying to find our way. No way is wrong. Every plant grows differently. You got this, mama. Keep going. And you know what? I love to send you guys out with some root checks. We have mini root guides and root checks, journal prompts. So write these down. If not, we'll put them in the show notes. But I have 5 questions for you this week, mama. What have I normalized in my healing journey that may deserve more attention? Number 2, have I truly given permission to heal slowly? Number 3, what emotions come up when I think about my birth experience? I know we all can really deep dive into that one. Number 4, in what ways has my body carried me through motherhood? Number 5, what would it look like to support myself with more compassion this week? So, mama, you got this. Keep going. Your healing deserves time and care. Your body is worthy of support. Healing is possible at every stage. I do not need to rush my recovery. My scar tells a story of strength. I deserve postpartum support. If this episode helped you feel seen, share it with another mama who needs this conversation. Make sure to go follow Janelle. Reach out if you need support. And if you want this week's mini root guide, DM me the word healing. Our mini root guides will also have all of her information on there so you can follow her, contact her, support her. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Have a good day. Thanks, Janelle.
Thank you.
I don't know what it does. End session.